Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to continue on with this sort of Christmas winter series that I've been filming for you over the last couple of videos. So for this one we're going to head up towards Stockholm. We're going to go a little bit to the southeast though, out to the Stockholm archipelago, to Igarö Island, and we're going to review my first beer from Värmdö Bryggeri. So for this one we're going to have a little look at the Lussebulle Imperial Stout. Lussebulle as in the saffron buns that they eat here in Sweden around Christmas time. I think they're named after St. Lucy's Day. The saffron buns with the little raisins on them, the S-shape, as you can kind of see on the artwork. And this particular beer is part of their Skärgårdsprojekt, which is, I think that literally translates into English as like the archipelago project. And this is number 5 in that series, but it's an Imperial Saffron Stout coming in at 11% ABV. And I have to say, I have never ever come across a saffron Imperial Stout before, so I think this should be really quite interesting. I do enjoy my Lussebulle and my kanelbuller and things like that as well in Sweden. They're very good at cakes here. I'm surprised more of them don't have diabetes. But yeah, really curious to see how this beer turns out, and hopefully you guys enjoy my take on it as well. One other thing I should say is that about a year ago I actually did film a video for Värmdö Bryggeri, and it was their aquavit barrel-aged fortified beer, or whatever it was called, and it was beautiful, but unfortunately my camera decided that it was going to destroy the file. There was something went wrong with the rendering for it, so I still have the file, but unfortunately it's not. It's all over the place. It's really weird, and I've tried a few things to fix it, but I've had no success yet. If any of you have any ideas, of course, let me know in the comment section below. But I have to say I was furious about that, because that aquavit barrel-aged beer that I had, that was in this tall bottle, this tall kind of clear bottle, it was absolutely beautiful and one of the most unusual beers that I've ever kind of come across on the channel, and the video was destroyed. So yeah, I was a bit annoyed about that, let's just say. But I've got a feeling that based on how good that beer was, I think this one will be really quite interesting. So as I say, looking forward to this one, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. So yeah, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my future reviews that hopefully I can do from Värmdö Bryggeri. Very first time you're seeing this brewery on the channel, of course, as I said earlier. There's all the usual social media down there too. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then, to tell you a little bit about Värmdö Bryggeri. So as I mentioned to you earlier, the Värmdö Bryggeri can be found on Igarö Island, which is just out to the kind of southeast of the main city of Stockholm. But the brewery is owned by 2 local entrepreneurs. This is Joachim Tillman, who is originally from Gothenburg, Göteborg, and Stefan Slet. And neither of these guys actually have any formal brewing training, but they were keen home brewers, and they started their company back in the spring of 2012, releasing their first beers in October of the same year. So they're joined at the company by Ludwig Brydolf, who is a qualified sommelier, and he is the brewery marketing director. And they've also got a pub at Sickla Strand as well, apparently. But as of 2019, when I'm filming this review for you, they've produced around 80 different types of beers, and much of their original brewing equipment was actually sourced from China, and they also have a bottling machine from Germany as well, which dated back to the 1950s. But they're also the first Swedish craft brewery to produce an alcohol-free beer as part of their kind of regular range. But if you look through all the different beers that these guys have done, that there's some really kind of interesting creations in there. So this is a brewery that I need to look and see what I can get on Systembolaget, because it's yeah, there's some really interesting things. Like I said, the aquavit fortified barrel-aged beer, that was absolutely beautiful. I was gutted when that file was destroyed. But there are some other really interesting ones there too. So I need to look through Systembolaget and see what I can actually still get from these guys. And see, I don't know if it's actually possible to order them down here, but I'm guessing if this one came through the Juldrika, then I think it probably will be. This one was released on the 1st of November 2019. Incidentally, just so you know. Yeah, so a really interesting little brewery, this one. They've got a whole host of different things, and they seem to have done, they've got a kind of interesting range of different beers. So if you get the chance, check them out. And that's somewhere I do need to go and explore, actually, is some of the other places around the sort of Stockholm archipelago. The Fjäderholm Islands are another place that I want to go and have a little look at as well. So yeah, that's all you really need to know about Värmdö Bryggeri for the moment. If you want to learn more, of course, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. And as always, you can look at the Rate Beer and Untappd pages too to see all the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. So as I mentioned to you earlier, this one they're describing as an Imperial Saffron Stout. It's brewed with saffron raisins, and I think the saffron, before they put it into the I think they put it in at the fermentation stage, and they marinate it in cognac actually, so you apparently will get a few cognac flavours out of this one. But really nicely presented. The artwork of this of course is the shape of the Lussebulle, or the saffron buns. And there you can see down here, here is the Värmdö Bryggeri symbol there, and basically on the side here it tells you a little bit about what the Skärgårdsprojekt is. It tells you a little bit about what I was mentioning earlier, what kind of flavours and stuff you would get, and it tells you about how they do it as well. So it says they take, I'm sure if I'm understanding this correctly, they take the little saffron beads or whatever, and the saffron pellets, and marinate them in cognac before they put them into the thing. So yeah, it should be a really interesting beer, this one. Like I said, part of the Skärgårdsprojekt number 5, and this one also has a very nice bottle cap as well, so that will be getting added to my collection that sits up there. So yeah, really curious to see how this one turns out. So without further ado, let's get this one out. Apparently the artwork on this is by Patrick Lundell. So yeah, let's get it out and get on with the tasting. I just noticed actually, this beer, it doesn't actually have an address for the brewery on it, and that's quite unusual. But yeah, let's get it out and we will get on with the tasting then. So yeah, nice little bit of smoke on the opening. This bottle actually is one of the darker glass ones that I've come across, come to think of it, and it's not just because there's beer in it. It's a bit of a weird thing to think about when you're reviewing a beer, right enough, but yeah, the glass on this bottle, just look at that, that has to be one of the darkest glass bottles I've seen. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, as you can see, and as you would expect, oh, you can smell that saffron as when you open it up. It comes across quite sweet, this. As you can see, and as you would expect from an Imperial Stout, this one's poured a lovely, dark, kind of ebony rosewood colour. If you shine the light through it, there is actually a bit of a kind of Coca-Cola coloured edge to this one. And yeah, it is actually, you know, there is a degree of haze to this beer, but I suspect, you know, there is a little bit of a ruby edge to it as well, sort of Coca-Cola ruby coloured edge. If this beer wasn't so dark, this would actually be pretty damn clear, I have to say. You can smell the cognac off that as well. Cognac, of course, is basically just, you know, just sort of a French version of whiskey. But yeah, that looks really pretty nice, and the aroma coming out of this, just even without concentrating too much on it, seems absolutely lovely. But yeah, in terms of its appearance, nothing overly surprising about this one in terms of it being an Imperial Stout. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones heading up towards the bottom of the head there, but the head incidentally has just faded away to be a very kind of thin foamy layer. And you could see though that in terms of colour, it was a sort of medium beige kind of, I don't know if khaki is a good way to describe it, but yeah, nice looking beer, this one. Nothing, as I said, overly surprising about this beer when you consider that it's an Imperial Stout. So let's have a closer look at that aroma then and see how we get on. I think this one is going to be crazy. Oh yeah, that's a really, really, this is one of the most unusual aromas that you're going to come across in an Imperial Stout. I think I've never come across something quite like that. And you know, like I said, this is one of the things, I've got a feeling I really need to see what else these guys have got, because that aquavit beer that I had, this is the third time I'm going on about that beer, reminiscing, but the aroma and things and the flavours that that beer had were just, you know, insane. But if these guys are home brewers by heart, you know, it's kind of, you can see where they're getting all these sort of crazy ideas from. I really like this. But yeah, straight away when you go into this beer with the aroma though, it's the cognac that comes out. To be honest with you, there is something that's almost slightly like Scotch ale or Doppelbock like about this aroma too. There's a lot of brown sugar sitting underneath here. Yeah, there is just something sort of, you know, the saffron, the more you smell of it, the saffron kind of starts to saturate your nose. You've got the how do you say, you've got the cognac definitely coming out of there as well, but there's a lot of brown sugar under there. I mean, cognac, from what I remember, is a sort of, it's almost like a kind of very sweet version of whiskey. It's even sweeter than the likes of the American bourbons and stuff. And being a Scot, of course, we're a bit picky about our whiskies. Yeah, the aroma of this is crazy. I mean, there's a lot of red fruit to this one. Obviously you get a little bit of the raisins that you would expect, but it's got a lot of dried fruit to it as well. I mean, there's this is one of these beers where you can't really stick to your normal structure of analysing it because there's so much going on. But let's stick to the fruit for the moment. We've got the raisiny sharpness in there. There's a little bit of a kind of dried, more sort of sultana type quality to this beer as well. Maybe, yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of the, the typical figgy, black curranty kind of thing too, but that's quite in the background. Really, it's a very dried, sort of datey, pruny, sultana, raisiny kind of thing that's going on here. There's a lot of dried fruit coming out of this one. But underneath that, of course, you get this very infused aroma that has, that's the cognac coming out. It's got some woody notes to it as well, and it's leathery or tobacco-y. It's something in between leathery and tobacco-y, the sort of infused notes you're getting out of this, but definitely some nice big woody undertones. And the saffron seems as if it's kind of infused into all of that in the same way that, like, you might get vanilla in some ways. The saffron sort of plays that kind of role in the beer. Or coffee, the saffron's having the same effect that coffee and vanilla can have on stouts. It's really, really unusual, that, but I'll tell you something, it certainly does work. This is one of the most unusual aromas, I think, that I've come across in 2,000 beer reviews, or near enough 2,000 beer reviews now. So yeah, kudos to Värmdö Bryggeri for that. There is a wee element of a kind of chocolatey note in there. You're getting that sort of bready thing that you would expect when this beer is based on that sort of bun, if you like, or a cake, bun, whatever. But when it's based on that, you really do have a little bit of that kind of almost bready quality underneath as well. But to me, there's quite a bit of brown sugar in here as well. There is something just almost like Doppelbock or Scotch ale-like about this. There is a little bit of that kind of brown sugary, but still quite light brown sugary note too. It's almost like kind of rum sugar cane, if you like. So that's a really interesting point to make about this beer. It almost has the way that the infused aroma comes out in this. It's almost like a beer, like some of these barrel-aged imperial stouts, like the one we had recently from Omnipollo and Dugas, the anagram, the barrel-aged anagram. The cognac notes come out in the same way that the bourbon notes came out in that beer. It's really lovely, this. In terms of hoppiness and things, there's not too much obvious in this one. I mean, there's maybe a teensy little bit of earthiness and a bit of grassiness, but there's no floral qualities or anything like that. I mean, this beer, there's not too much in the way of hoppy character here at all. I mean, it's pretty much all about the malts and the adjuncts and stuff that they've put in here. But yeah, if you try this beer, take a little bit of time to just appreciate that aroma, because that is mental. That is absolutely crazy, but it certainly works for the beer. And the Aquavit beer was exactly the same. It's one of these ones that is really quite outside the box, actually. So kudos to Värmdö Bryggeri for this one. This may well be one of the quirkiest breweries you're going to find in Sweden. So yeah, take a bit of time and enjoy that aroma, but we'll have a taste of this one now and see how we get on. So this one is the Lussebulle Imperial Stout, part of the Skärgårdsprojekt from Värmdö Bryggeri on Igarö Island, just out to the southeast of Stockholm. Let's get stuck into this one. A saffron Imperial Stout based on the Swedish Lussebulle, coming in at 11% ABV. Slange, skål. Oh yeah. That's a nice beer. That is a really, really pretty nice beer. This, where do you start with this? I mean, it's one of these ones that you're not going to find anything you can really compare this to. And quite often in these reviews I'll say, oh, if you like this beer, you'll like that. If you like this particular, if you like X, you'll also like Y. We say stuff like that. But this is really very unusual. You can't really compare this to anything else. So yeah, first impressions then. I would say that this beer, it really comes across I might have been just going by the way the flavour comes across, I might have been misunderstanding this. It might well have been aged in cognac barrels, because it certainly does have the mouthfeel like it's been aged. It's quite a, for an 11% Imperial Stout, it's quite light in its mouthfeel, so probably it has been aged in the cognac barrels rather than it being the saffron that's infused, because it has a lot of the typical traits you expect. I've always found that barrel aging sort of really just lightens up the mouthfeel and takes away some of the thickness when it comes to Imperial Stouts and Scotch ales and stuff like that. But it certainly does work. This is a very infused tasting beer, this. So yeah, let's try and break this down then. So, middle of your palate, the thing that's really forming the backbone of this beer is some of the kind of woody, sort of oaky flavours there. You feel those, I mean, they're a bit more obvious the further you go into the aftertaste, and the saffron really is kind of sitting there as well, actually. It would be interesting to see them do you know, like an original version. So I don't know if they have done maybe a non-barrel aged version, because it would be interesting to try to have a go at that. But the cognac certainly does work, and it gives you the fruity complexity actually, which is really nice. We'll talk about that later though. But yeah, the base of this beer is the sort of the woody notes, and then on top of that you get the kind of infused saffron there. This beer, incidentally, it has a bit of brown sugar in the middle of the palate, right enough, but it doesn't really have any kind of chocolate or things like that to it, which is really interesting. I mean, maybe in the start of the flavour you'd think towards the back of your palate there's a little bit of chocolate there. And you know, in fairness, as you go further into the aftertaste as well, you do get a little bit of a roasty toasty kind of thing towards the back of your tongue, but it's very, very minimal. It's a very light roasty toasty thing. The woody quality is really smooth this whole beer out actually, and the way the saffron comes out, it's really just very, very nicely done actually. Yeah, it's awesome. As you move further into the middle of your palate, you've got some really nice kind of brown sugar caney sort of things in there, and it's quite distinctive. I mean, I was saying that the aroma came across quite like, you know, the rum sugar cane and things, but the cognac is quite different. It's a little bit more almost sort of medicinal. The way the brown sugars come out, it feels a little bit more like a kind of cough syrupy medicinal type thing, and yeah, you'll get that right in the middle of your palate. The thing that's a bit dangerous about this beer is how light and easy to drink it is when it's 11%. You know, it's quite easily going to go to your head, this one actually, and I'm noticing the further you go into the aftertaste as well, it's almost like the palate does thicken up a little bit, and you start to get the impression of the kind of bready notes that you would expect from the Lussebulle actually. So yeah, there is a little bit of that there, and it's kind of, if you go to the sides of your palate then just move in a little bit, you'll start to get those bready flavours out of it, which is interesting. This is a crazy beer, that. If you get the chance to, if you see this one, buy it. It really is nice. I don't know how much I would have paid for this. It must have been about 70 crowns or something like that. But definitely, you know, definitely worth it actually. Really is. You know, there's a few interesting undertones to this beer. If you go to the very centre of your palate and move forward, you can pick up a little bit of a nutty note there. Some of the almost cakey qualities to this beer, they're coming out a little bit towards the front of the palate as well, behind the fruity part of the beer. And there is almost a little bit of a kind of leathery-ish flavour to this one too. There is a sort of leathery undertone to this beer. But I tell you something, the way this one's all about how these flavours kind of blend together. This is really one of the most interesting Imperial Stouts that I've had recently. I mean, the barrel-aged anagram from Dugas and Omnipollo, I said that was probably one of the best barrel-aged beer that I've reviewed on the channel. This one certainly runs it close, and it's part of that is the quirkiness factor, of course, because it's an unusual beer. But I mean, going by this and the Aquavit beer that I tried before, you know, these guys know what they're doing when it comes to barrel aging actually. So if you're into the likes of Innocent Gun and things like that, you know, check out Värmdö Bryggeri. They seem to have a real knack for that actually. I need to keep a better eye on this brewery, to be honest. But yeah, the complexity and the flavour of this beer is all in the middle of the palate. Hoppy side of things then. So again, since this beer, yeah, I'm almost certain this is barrel aged. I must have misunderstood earlier. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, there's a little bit of an earthy note there, and as you come further forward along the sides of the tongue, it smooths out. But you know, you're not going to get a lot of bitterness and things like that. When this has been barrel aged, a lot of the hops are going to kind of drop out, and you know, the Imperial Stout is not the most hopped up beer style anyway. But round the front curve of the palate, it's that little bit lighter and grassy, and behind the front curve of the tongue, that's where you get that little oily bubble where those juicy, fruity esters start to push their way out of the beer. In terms of hop varieties, I would bet that this has either got, it's probably either got Northern Brewer in it, or Northern Brewer from Germany, or Bramling's Cross from England, and because those are the ones that give you these sorts of phenolic, fruity kind of qualities. So I think it'll probably be one of those, if not both of them. And you know, you can use a bit of Williamette from America and things, but I suspect it's more likely, just going from the way the earthiness in this is, I suspect it might be more likely to be Bramling's Cross rather than anything else. The earthiness is a bit darker, and which indicates that it's probably more English hops that are in this beer. But yeah, it works really quite nicely. But it's obviously been barrel aged, and the hops are going to drop off over time, but the fruity side of this beer is really quite complex actually. So yeah, when you take this beer in, it does have a good little bit of kind of sharpness to it. It's a little bit kind of raisin-like, and you'll get that sort of cognac-y sweetness to it, and then over time the flavour evolves to be a little bit more sort of phenolic. Like some of the fruity flavours you get out of this, they really remind me of the Belgian Bruin. And honestly, when it comes to Belgian beer, the Belgian Bruin probably isn't my kind of favourite style of beer. If it's the Belgian beers for me, if I want a brown beer, I always go for the quads. I always think the quads, that they've just got that bit of sweetness to back up the kind of phenolic qualities. But the way that this one, the saffron, really complements the fruit in this very, very well. So I'd always say with that oily bubble, if you find the part of your tongue where the malts and the fruits are just starting to meet, there's a little kind of grey area in there, and that's where the kind of cakey notes come out of this beer. That's where you get the kind of breadiness of the saffron bun, if you like. But yeah, when you take this beer in, it's quite sharp and raisiny, and you get those kind of cognac-y flavours in there. But yeah, you've got a sort of datey, kind of pruny type flavour to this beer as well. So yeah, I think raisins at the start, then it evolves. You can feel the front of your tongue just wetting up a little bit, but there's a little bit of a kind of pruny, datey sort of flavour to this one. It's definitely a little bit more like sultanas than raisins. That sort of raisiny sharpness disappears quite quickly, and it's more like dates, prunes, sultanas and things like that. There's maybe a wee touch of like an almost apricot-y note to this beer as well, but then the further you go into the aftertaste, you will detect a little bit of an almost blackberry-ish, blackcurrant-y type thing coming out of this one. So it's really interesting how this whole beer fits together. I mean, it's very light in its mouthfeel generally. We'll talk about that again in a little minute. But it's hugely complex in terms of flavour. I mean, the only things that I can think to compare this to would be like some of the stuff that you get from, say, Innocent Gun or something, but this is a lot better than you're going to find from Innocent Gun. The Innocent Gun beers are a lot more kind of simple than this, but so, you know, in terms of the flavour profile of this beer, I take my hat off to Värmdö Bryggeri, and on the basis of this one and the Aquavit beer, these guys really know what they're doing. So if you like these sort of barrel-aged beers, Värmdö Bryggeri are one that you really need to check out. I need to keep a better eye on this brewery, that's for certain. In terms of the mouthfeel of this beer then, like I said, this was one of these ones that's surprisingly light for the style. So yeah, I don't know if I'd even describe this as full-bodied. This is like a sort of mid-bodied beer, and it's not even at the top end of mid-bodied. Carbonation is very, very smooth. It does have an element of oiliness to it, but at the same time, it is a bit lighter and kind of wet, if you like. It's quite slick almost. So yeah, it's got that typical sort of characteristic of a barrel-aged Imperial Stout, but it's just one of these ones that really strikes you. It's very rare that you'll get beers like this that are just so unusual that you're just kind of blown away by them. But you know, as I say, kudos to Värmdö Bryggeri. In terms of the hoppy bitterness and things like that, I think we're talking maybe about 40 or 50 IBUs with this one. There is that bit of earthiness there. And I don't know if there is a little element of spice to this one in the middle of the palate, but I don't know if you can count that as bitterness. I think it's maybe about 40 IBUs rather than 50, to be honest with you. There is that earthiness, like I say. Middle of your palate, it's very, very smooth, a little bit spicy, and you do get a wee bit of a kind of brown sugary sweetness in the middle of your palate. Nice kind of fruity elements in there as well. Like I say, it's quite a. It starts off a little bit sharp, but then it becomes quite an oily and juicy fruity note. Quite a dried fruity flavour to this beer actually, but a little bit of a, you know, a little bit of kind of raisiny sultana type notes. But yeah, lots of different dried fruits in there, and it gets a bit juicier the further that you go into the aftertaste as well. So there's a hell of a lot going on in this beer. I think this is probably one of my less coherent beer reviews that I've done, just because this is such a unique beer. But you know, on the basis of the quirkiness, you need to try this beer anyway, but then you're going to get something of a very good quality as well, in my opinion. So like I said already, I take my hat off to Värmdö Bryggeri for this one. They've done an awesome job of this, and you know, the aquavit beer before that I've been sad over losing the review for, that was another awesome beer. So like I say, I need to keep a proper tab on this brewery and just see what they're doing. I need to keep an eye on the local and small sites and see what comes out from Värmdö Bryggeri. So yeah, definitely check out this brewery if you get the chance. This is a very good beer to start with, a really nice Christmassy thing this, so it's kind of cool that they would even think to do something like this. So as I say, hats off to Värmdö Bryggeri for this. But this beer is one of the best ones I've reviewed in this little kind of Christmas mini-series, there's no doubt about that. So order it up and have a taste of it for yourselves. I think they've done an awesome job with this. So we'll leave it at that for this one. This one is the Lussebulle Imperial Stout, a saffron Imperial Stout based on the Lussebulle buns, coming in at 11% ABV. Awesome stuff, and you know, keep an eye on this brewery if you get the chance. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Värmdö Bryggeri as well. I definitely need to return to these guys sooner rather than later. I think this is maybe my first cognac barrel-aged beer as well, which was an interesting experience. But an awesome Imperial Stout, this. Ridiculously easy to drink as well for what percentage it was, but you know, I'm going to go away and enjoy the rest of this over the evening. This is an awesome Imperial Stout, and you will definitely see more reviews from this brewery soon. Thank you again for watching. Check out Värmdö Bryggeri on Igarö Island, and you will see more reviews from these guys soon. Until the next time, Slàinte just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slàinte, skål, cheers. The Lussebulle Imperial Stout, part of the Skärgårdsprojekt, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, from Värmdö Bryggeri on Igarö Island near Stockholm. Skål, cheers.